Hello, my name is Katrina Zeno, and welcome to this second video in this series entitled Living in the Glory. I hope you enjoyed the last video about the significance of St. John Paul II's life, and therefore a reminder that your life is significant too, and that God is already at work in your life, even if you can't see it or feel it. In this video, I'd like to look at the importance of language. Have you ever thought about how significant language is? For instance, how do you know what I'm saying? You only know what I'm saying if you know what my words mean. Now, if you speak English, it's easy because you can understand the meaning of my words just by listening to them. But if you speak Slovak or Lithuanian or Italian or French, well, then my words have to be translated into a language you can understand, and the translator has to be faithful to the meaning of my words, otherwise you'll get the wrong message. One of my favorite memories of speaking in Slovakia in November of 2011 was speaking in a large church hall filled with about 400 or 500 religious sisters. Okay, that was a lot of nuns in one place. I was, of course, speaking in English, and a very, very skilled man was translating for me. At one point in my talk, I said, "I love my son." And I paused for him to translate my words, which he did. And then I said, "I adore my son." And I paused again for him to translate my words, only this time he was silent, looking at me with an unsure expression. I looked at him and said the same sentence again. "I adore my son." Then he leaned forward and he whispered to me, "We can't say that in Slovak. We only use the word adore to refer to God." Wow. Okay, that is profound and significant. Adoration is usually only applied to God and not to a human person or to an object. It would be incorrect to say, "I adore my new Mercedes-Benz convertible," or to say, "I adore my dog." Why? Because God is one of a kind. Only God is divine. Only God is all good, all holy, all loving, and so we only offer adoration and worship to God. Wow. But sometimes, have you noticed, we forget this truth? In fact, I think many times we forget this truth and we put other things in the place of God. My favorite story in all of the Bible that speaks about forgetting God's significance in our lives is Jesus' encounter with the woman at the well in the Gospel of John, chapter 4. Okay, let's set the stage for this story. Jesus and his disciples have arrived in the region of Samaria, and he sends them away to buy food. He sends them to the town to buy food. So he sits down beside a well in the middle of the day in the desert, and it's hot. Okay, can I just tell you, okay, I live in the desert, and I know how incredibly hot it can be in the middle of the day. It's like a furnace. It's like a fire. So when it's 112 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about 44 degrees Celsius, we try not to go out of our air-conditioned houses, and we certainly would not want to do the physically demanding work of drawing water from a well in the middle of the day. Yet, the Bible tells us that this Samaritan woman arrives when? At the hottest part of the day, so she can avoid encountering anyone. And Jesus is waiting for her. There he is, waiting for her at the well. What a surprise it must have been for her to see a man waiting by the well. And even more surprising, he's not a Samaritan. He's a Jew. You see, Jews and Samaritans didn't normally talk to each other because there was a tremendous tension between them about worship and adoration. But this tension, it's not a problem for Jesus. You see, he takes the initiative to talk to her, to engage her in conversation. And eventually he asks her to call her husband. In response, the woman casually says to him, "Oh, I have no husband." And do you know what Jesus' response is? He says to her, "You're right in saying I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you are with now is not your husband." Why does Jesus say this? Is it to shame the woman? No. Jesus never shames us. Can I say that again? Jesus never shames us. Instead, it's because the Samaritans as a people had wandered away from the one true God to worship 5 false gods, or 5 husbands. So this woman as a Samaritan is a symbol of every one of us and of our tendency to wander away from God and to do what? To put other things in place of God. Do you see how important language is? And why we need to understand when Jesus says, "You have had 5 husbands," he doesn't mean only the literal translation that she's been married 5 times, but he's referring to a deeper reality, that her heart has been restless. She's been searching in vain for happiness. I think many of us, like the Samaritan woman, we're restless. We have a spirit of discontent, and we're searching high and low for happiness. We're searching for freedom and for love, for a life of prosperity, for a higher standard of living. We're searching for our own human identity and for human fulfillment. And we're constantly tempted to search for these things apart from God. So I want to just pause here for a moment and ask you to close your eyes. Go ahead, would you be so kind and close your eyes? And now, in your imagination, imagine yourself with a water jar going out to get water from the well in the middle of the day. Can you just see yourself in the situation with your water jar walking to the well? Okay, now as you approach the well, you see Jesus sitting there. Maybe you think he's going to turn away from you, to turn his back on you, to ignore you, or maybe you're afraid he's going to judge you or shame you. But instead, he turns toward you and he gives you a big, welcoming smile, and his eyes light up with joy and delight. So in your mind's eye, what's your reaction to his greeting? To Jesus' spontaneous expression of affection and friendship toward you, how do you react? Now see him invite you to sit down beside him at the well. And he says to you in a very kind and gentle voice, "I know you've been searching for love, happiness, and freedom. But tell me, why don't you think you will find those things in me?" How do you answer Jesus' question? Speak honestly to him from your heart. Tell him why you try to find happiness and freedom and acceptance apart from God. What do you say to him? And as you talk to him, see Jesus listening attentively to you. He's receiving everything you say with great love and great understanding. And then when you're done expressing your thoughts and feelings to him, see Jesus reach behind him and pick up a cup full of life-giving water, and he hands it to you to drink, and he nods to you to drink it. So again, in your imagination, see yourself lift the cup to your lips, and you drink the water slowly, deeply, wanting to feel, letting it penetrate every part of your body. Can you feel it? Can you feel the life-giving water of God wanting to fill your whole body? Just stay there for a moment with Jesus, with his life-giving water filling every part of your whole being, all the way from your head down to your toes, and especially filling your heart with life, with love, with joy. Can you feel it? And then hear Jesus say to you, will you give me your idols? Will you give me the things that you worship and adore? The things that you have put in place of me in your life? And see yourself, take your empty water jar and put in your empty water jar all the things you're searching for to make you happy. Maybe it's money you put in your jar, or a high-paying job, or a romantic relationship. Or perhaps it's drugs, or alcohol, or sex. See yourself put each of these false gods into your jar. But what else do you put in there that keeps you from the fullness of life? Is it hurts from your past? Or maybe a trauma from your family situation? Or confusion about your identity? Or anxiety about the future? Just put it all in the jar. And now Jesus asks you with great tenderness, will you give me your jar? And what's your response? Do you give it to him? Because he's not going to force you. You're free. You can choose to give your jar to Jesus, or you can choose to hold on to it. What do? Let's just stay a moment longer with Jesus at the well of our lives and experience his friendship, his companionship, his just wanting to be with us. Can you please open your eyes? Isn't language amazing? The words of the Bible can bring us into contact with God, with Jesus Christ, who's waiting at the well of our lives to encounter us and speak his truth to us, to set us free and liberate us from all the things we grasp onto that we think will give us true life and status in the eyes of others and our friends. Over the next couple days, I want to offer you a challenge. The challenge to talk to Jesus like you would a good friend. One of the amazing things the Bible tells us is how Moses was a friend of God. In the book of Exodus, chapter 33, verse 11, it says, "The Lord used to speak to Moses face to face as a man speaks to his friend." This is truly remarkable that we as human persons, we can speak to God face to face as one speaks to a friend. So speak to God like a friend and tell him about your joys and your sorrows. Tell him how you're feeling right at that moment, whether it's frustration or anger or sadness, or if you're feeling loved or energized or peaceful and content or passionate. I hope as you do this, as you speak to Jesus as one speaks to a friend, you will discover in a new way the significance of language in allowing us to relate to God as a person, person to person, friend to friend, sitting by the well of our lives, waiting to have a conversation with us, with you. And as you start talking to God, maybe, just maybe, you'll discover something new about yourself and how you delight the heart of God. And maybe you'll be able to take another step on this journey toward living in the glory.